Okay, so I've put on mute, so don't worry about background noise. We're going to start talking about the growth mindset tonight. And last week we had quite a lot of people on the call because I met them at various talks that I was giving and sort of just invited them to come and take a look and see what we were doing every week. Some of them are very intrigued that it's done online. To them, it's like they've never heard of a program that is conducted all online, and I guess many people are very familiar with the face-to-face contact. But yeah, I had very good feedback. They all enjoyed the session on self-care, and I hope that you all did too. Today we're going to talk about the growth mindset, and this has been really fundamental for me in my parenting. When I first learned about the growth mindset, I was very amazed that there was actually a structure, and in fact there was actually some kind of framework. So what I want to share with you today is really going to be really important. Oh, I hear someone in the background. Let me see. Okay, Msume, can you mute yourself? See whether... I'm trying to mute you, but I can't seem to do that for some reason. Let me see. Okay, I'll try and go on. Hopefully it won't be too noisy. Okay, so growth mindset. Let's do a quick check-in before we get into the growth mindset. What is one thing you've learned in the last 1 week? So for me, the one thing that I've learned... Hi, Siu-Hun. Siu-Hun is here. I don't know where Siu-Hun has gone to. One thing I've learned in the last 1 week is really to keep an open mind. On Sunday, I went to give a talk, even on Sunday, for a group called Over the Rainbow. If you're not familiar with the group, it's actually an organization, a non-profit organization that supports the cultivation of skills for youth and their mental health. So the founder, it's actually a pretty sad story. The founder's son, took his own life 8 years ago, and he started this non-profit in honor of his son and has been supporting youth with their mental health for the last 8 to 9 years. And I met up with him, and he told me, there will be 8 to 12 parents coming so that we can share. I was going to share with them about this program and the framework of SET. And in the end, only 2 people turned up. So my first reaction was like, oh no, it's a Sunday. I don't get to see my kids on a Sunday, and only 2 people turned up. And it turned out that they were part of this organization called Singapore Creative, and they were an arts performance group, also non-profit, that was working with youth to help them to have a greater freedom of expression of their emotions and their authentic self. And they agreed to help me to promote the program. So one thing that I've learned in the last 1 week is that when we keep an open mind and not close it, we can learn so much more. I'd love to hear what you learned over the last 1 week. Siu-Hun, can you hear me? If you can hear me, just type into the group chat. Hopefully you can hear me. Okay, just type in when... Yeah, great. Okay, so you can hear me. Yeah, so what's one thing you've learned in the last 1 week? And Siu-Hun, you're not going on holiday today, this week? Just chatting with Siu-Mei. IC number for younger children start with T. Yes, that's right. Yes, ours starts with S and then start with T, huh? And their number starts with 0, of course. I still remember when I found out my mother's IC number start with 0, I started to wonder, is she only 0 years old? Then I realized that it was linked also to the year of birth, which is pretty cool. Okay, so one thing, let's go on, because today we're going to talk about growth mindset, and a lot of it is about learning. So, many parents ask me, how is it that we can actually cultivate a love of learning in our children as opposed to them just doing the homework for homework's sake? because I'm sure you agree with me that when they are doing homework just for the sake of doing homework, it becomes a chore. And then our role gets so much more difficult because we have to nag and scold and threaten them to do their homework. So one thing that has really worked for me in getting Sherry to be able to do her things and to be open-minded enough to learn is this thing called the growth mindset. So what we're going to cover today is what is the growth mindset? Why is it important? What are the benefits for our children if they cultivate this mindset? And how do we actually support them in cultivating it? And then we're going to take some questions. We're not going to cover the program details because you already know it. But Karen said that some of her friends might be joining, so we'll see how that goes. What is the growth mindset? I showed this to you in the group, and I want to spend a bit of time to explain the difference between the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. So for the fixed mindset, the basis behind it is that intelligence is static, meaning intelligence doesn't change. When you are born, you're born with a fixed amount of intelligence. This is what they believe in the fixed mindset. And therefore, when you have the fixed mindset, you don't believe that you can get better, right? So children who have these characteristics, you can quickly identify them as fixed mindset. Number one, they don't like challenges. They don't like difficult things. When they see some task that is difficult, they would either run away or find ways to avoid it, okay? Or if they have a choice between a difficult task and an easy task, they would choose the easy one because they think that their intelligence is fixed and all they want to do is just to make sure that they continue to look good. A lot of this is tied to the kind of praise that we give them. And I'll go through that a bit later. Children who have the fixed mindset also tend to give up easily. When things are difficult, they would just drop it, right? Because in their mind, they think, well, I don't think I can do it. That's all it is for me. I can't do it, or I'm not able to do math, or I'm not able to climb the playground slide, for example. They see effort as fruitless, meaning that there's no point in putting in more effort because I can't do it anyway. So what's the point in investing more effort? They don't like feedback. When you give them feedback, they think that you're being mean to them, as opposed to looking at feedback as a way to improve. They also get threatened by others' success. So you may see certain emotions of jealousy or envy because they feel threatened by the fact that other people are better than them. And remember that in the fixed mindset, the thing that they want is to look smart. Okay? Whereas for the growth mindset, it's based on a very different fundamental belief. It is based on the belief that intelligence can be developed, right? So when you believe that intelligence is not fixed, that intelligence is something that can be developed over the years of your growth, then you realize that the children actually have more desire to learn, and they have a tendency, to embrace challenges. They persist despite the different obstacles that they have, because to them, well, I can get better. So they will persist. They see effort as a path to mastery. When they put in more effort and they can do better, they see this as them being able to master something, right? And also when they see that intelligence can be developed, then they can learn from the criticism. They can learn, they don't mind even getting criticism because to them, criticism is a way that they can get better. Does this make sense so far? I hope so. Oh, Karen's on as well. Hi, Karen. Glad to have you here. Yes. Okay. So the last part of the growth mindset is also that they are inspired by others' success. When they look at someone succeeding, they ask themselves, "Wow, how can I be like that?" Whereas for the fixed mindset, they will look at the other person and say, "I want to be better than them," and that they may take certain actions or they may feel jealous of them. Right? So there's a very distinct difference between having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Okay? And for us as adults, we also want to be able to look at it and say, hey, is there a way that we ourselves can cultivate the growth mindset as parents? Because when we are able to cultivate it ourselves, we become better role models for our children. Okay? All right. I'm just going to put someone on mute. Okay, great. All right. So those are the distinct differences. Now I want to go into why is it important. So of course, when it comes to our children, the growth mindset and the ability to want to learn and get better, ability to take feedback, the ability to not give up easily will lead to these characteristics. Number one, they are more confident, right? When they have the growth mindset, it helps to boost their confidence because number one, they don't think that their intelligence is limited. And also boost their esteem because they know they can get better, right? And when you know you can get better in something, you're more willing to put in the effort to get better at it. There's no need for them to keep proving themselves by wanting to showcase what they can do. Instead, they're very quietly confident that they are able to do something, and you will be able to see it in the way that they persist at something. Okay, it's also important because when they have the growth mindset, they can overcome setbacks because they look at their mistakes and the obstacles that they encounter as ways of learning. So when they encounter something that's difficult, they will tell themselves, well, it is difficult and I can't do it, but I can't do it yet, rather than I can't do it full stop, right? That is one of the key differences. So they learn from their mistakes, and because they're learning, they are growing, right? And because it's also focused a lot on the process and the effort, rather than you're either good or no good, you're smart or not smart, it allows the kid to see that, oh, as long as I follow this process, maybe if I put in more effort, I can learn from my mistakes and I get better at what I'm doing. So in this way, it allows them to overcome setbacks. And then the last point is that it promotes intrinsic motivation, right? I think a few weeks ago, we talked about how to help them to be more self-regulated and so on. So when we promote the growth mindset, I'll tell you how to do it in a while. The children actually become more interested in learning because we are not so interested in them thinking that they are good children or not so good children, right? Instead, we are saying that you have the ability to become better and you can get better every day by putting in enough effort, by following a certain process. And so they're more interested in the learning. They want to learn the subject not because there's a reward, but because they're interested in what is it they're going to get out of it, right? So you can see how this ties to the confidence as well. When we're not so overly focused on just getting them to be good at what they're doing, but we're actually focusing on them actually building up a certain skill. Understand that in order to achieve success, it depends on a certain process and effort. Then they actually learn that learning is actually all about the pathway of getting there as well. Okay, so what are some of the benefits of the growth mindset? Better achievement in school. I think this is something as parents that we definitely want for our children. And you can see why, right? When they are able to get feedback positively, they will apply the feedback and they will get better. When they are able to learn for learning's sake and not learn in order to do well in the exam only, they actually learn better. And so they get better at whatever they are learning about. It helps them to enhance their relationship. And you will be thinking, this is a curious one. But imagine if they're friends, right? And the friends say, hey, why didn't you help me yesterday? Or they make a comment that sounds like a criticism. And if they're not open-minded, number one, and if they think that the friend is directly criticizing them, then they might, when they have that fixed mindset, they will say, oh, I don't want to be friends with this person because this person only thinks of me in a bad way. But if they look at it and say, well, could my friend be telling me the truth? Could my friend be telling me something that I can learn from? You can see how that enhances the relationships, right? They keep an open mind to receive feedback. So for example, the teacher in school shares with them that in order for them to maybe do better in a particular subject, it would help them to be, if they were more focused. So they might look at it and say, okay, how can I become more focused? And how can I take this feedback? When we get to the how section, I want to really break it down for you, but we'll just go through some of the benefits first. Okay. They're more adaptable and they are able to make changes, right? When they encounter setback, they will say, let's try again. When they have something that they cannot do, they will say, well, I cannot do it yet. And the same applies to relationships. If they are not able to make friends in school, They won't say, I'm a lousy person, I just don't know how to make friends, nobody likes me. That's a very fixed mindset way of thinking. Instead, they will think, well, I'm not able to make friends yet, and maybe I need to try a different way of making friends. Maybe I can make friends with people from another class, right? So you can see the growth mindset also affects relationships. They're more resilient for sure, because to them, when they encounter obstacles, they see it as opportunities to grow, right? When they have go for PE lessons, or when they're playing in the playground and they encounter a difficulty, for example, they want to climb up to the monkey bars, or they want to climb up the slide, or they want to climb up the seesaw that's too high for them. When they can't do it the first time, they'll say, wow, this is a chance for me to learn to grow. They won't say it to themselves, of course, in these words, but they'll be thinking, I don't mind trying again. And actually, if you look at young children up to the age of 4 and 5, most of them actually have quite a good growth mindset. They will keep trying and trying, especially for things that they like. But I find that a lot of the times the fixed mindset starts to set in when they have certain results that parents are trying to ask them to achieve. Okay, so our response to what they're trying, our response to when they're not able to achieve something makes a huge difference in them seeing themselves as a fixed mindset or growth mindset person. Okay. They would have the willingness to try again. Say for that, if they are building a block of towers, or remember those stacking cups they need to build from big all the way to the top, which is small, and they keep trying and the cups keep falling because they put it in the wrong order, then they would see that again as, okay, I just need to try it in a different way. And so the willingness to try again will be there. And the more they try again, the more likely they are building the resilience muscle. Okay, so we've covered what's good about it. We've covered the benefits. We've covered the definition. Now I want to go into talking about the how. Okay, so I don't know if you remember when we first met in the school that I talked about this framework called the SET. Can you remember what the S stands for? SET model. I'm not sure if you can remember what the S stands for, so I'm going to refresh your memory. So the first one is self. So when I say self, I'm actually referring to you as parents. One of the ways to really support your children to cultivate the growth mindset is to be aware of your own mindset. Sometimes in our own journey and our own words, the words that we use to our children about our own situations convey the growth mindset, right? For example, maybe we bought something from IKEA and we are trying to fix up this little kitchen for them. And we take out the tool and we try and somehow we can't seem to fix it. And we can say things like, well, I just can't do it. I'm not a fixing things kind of person. And without realizing it, when we say things like, I'm not an X type of person, or I am not good at organizing things, I am not good at baking, when we say things like that, we're actually conveying this mindset to our children that there is such a thing as not being good at something, right? Actually, what we can actually say is that mommy or daddy may not be able to fix up this kitchen at this moment. How can I go and learn how to do it? Or who can I ask for help, right? So we want to make sure that in our communication to our children that we are also aware of our own mindset. So that's the self portion. The next one is when we look at our children, maybe we overemphasize the results instead of noticing that they have actually grown as individuals. So for example, if when they started to learn to ride a bike, maybe at 4 or 5 years old, the only thing they could do was to ride on a bike with 2 wheels. And then when you took off the wheels, maybe the thing that they could do was to balance it, right, at age 5. And then maybe at age 6 or age 7, they finally learned to ride on 2 wheels. But for us, or maybe some of you and some parents that I've met, they may focus a lot on the results. They will say, wow, you can finally ride a bike. Or when they can't do it, they will say, how come you cannot ride a bike? And other children are able to do it at your age. So you notice that there's a lot of focus only on the eventual outcome. As for the growth mindset, a lot of it is really noticing the stages of growth in your children. So for example, you can say like, wow, when you are P4, you learn, 4 years old, you learn to ride your bicycle with 2 wheels for the first time, and you relate the story to them. And then at P5, wow, you actually were able to take off the 2 wheels. So you have grown, you have become better than before. And then at age 7, you were able to ride properly without falling on 2 wheels. So what you are doing is conveying to them that you are noticing their growth, and you're not only noticing, wow, you can ride a bike. Because that process that you notice and convey to them helps them to see that the outcome is not only the thing they should be worried about, they should also be concerned about their growing. So when we notice their growth, they pay more attention to it, they're more excited about these milestones, and that helps them to cultivate a love of learning, right? As opposed to only be concerned about the result, then all they are cultivating is, I just want to do well. I just want that result and nothing else. And when they encounter a setback, they'll say, well, I don't know how I got to that result, because the stages of growth have not actually been pointed out to them. So this is really critical. The next one, the S stands for the self. The next one stands for the environment. So environment, we also want to be able to create an environment where mistakes are not fatal. Meaning that if they make a mistake, we want to tell them, it's okay, let's try again. Let's try different ways of doing it. So mistakes become normal. Mistakes become commonplace. So they won't get so frightened of it, right? Because when they are frightened of making a mistake, what they actually are exhibiting is the fixed mindset. I can't make a mistake. Let me go and choose something easy so that I don't make the mistake. And when they always choose the easy thing, they will not grow, right? So the environment that we need to cultivate is that, mistakes are not fatal. And we want to encourage them to try. Some of you may say, but what if we keep encouraging them to try, and because we are lenient on them, they don't seem to push past the boundary? So this is where you can combine certain strategies together, right? We encourage them to try, but we also need to give them a little goal, right? A little milestone goal that they can hit so that they can experience success. Then your encouragement will be more effective, okay? So an environment where mistakes are allowed and that you can encourage them to try because they are not there yet is also critical, okay? The last one is tools. So now that as the adult, you are aware of your own mindset, you notice their growth and not only the results. You allow mistakes to happen, meaning that mistakes are not something that you will overreact to, and you encourage them to try. The next one is the tools. So this is where I think would be something where I'll spend a bit of time, right? So process and effort praise. So one of the ways that we somehow tend to convey the fixed mindset is through our praise. And many parents tell me that the way they praise their children is by saying, well done, good job, you're so smart. And the challenge with that is that, number one, it's not specific. They do not know which part of what they're doing is well done. They do not know which part of that great job is great. And when you say you're so clever, you're just trying to praise them on intelligence instead of whatever skills they may have used to get there. So that's where process and effort praise becomes really important. So process and effort praise sounds like this. Wow, I saw that you went swimming twice this week, and now you can swim a whole lap by yourself. So you're talking about the process, and you're talking about the effort. And then you tie it to the outcome. Later we'll be doing an exercise, okay, for you to try. So when we move away from fixed praise that's focused only on the outcome, that's only focused on the characteristic, your child will now learn that in order for them to achieve something, they need to put in effort and they need to follow a process. Otherwise, they'll just be waiting there and waiting for things to happen without putting in any effort. And they think that, oh, all these good things are just going to drop from the sky, which we all know is not possible. Okay, later we'll be going through the 9 key questions to use, which I think would make a significant difference for you in your parenting, and that you can immediately get started tonight or tomorrow night. Tomorrow, I mean. Okay, so process and effort praise. Let me give you an example, and then I want you to try, okay? So the first one, okay, for example, your child gets 10 upon 10 for spelling. What would you say? What would you normally say if your child comes back with these results? Just type into the chat box. Let's just play along. Tell me what you would normally say. And then I'm going to give you the example and then we'll try it out. Well done. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, great. You got all correct because you practiced. Good. Okay. So for Siumei's case, yes, you connect the end result to the fact that they practice. One thing we can do is just get a bit more specific. How long did they practice, right? And you could talk about times or number of times they practice or what they actually did during the practice, right? Or how long they spent practicing. So you can just go one step further, okay? And always attribute it to their own effort. So in the example, we want to focus on the process and effort. We want to connect to the outcome. It can be specific. So you practiced a few times. In this case, could be you practiced 3 times. And so you were able to do well in your spelling this week, right? So if we just say good job, then they'll be like, oh, all mommy wants is for me to get 10 upon 10 in spelling. So if you say that, then they'll think that's all mommy wants. And they've forgotten that effort and the process actually got them there. Can you see how in the long run, just praising them on good job and well done, in the long run as they go up the higher levels of education or in anything that they're trying to do, say learn a new sport, make a new friend, go to a new country, for example, then all they're looking for is the end result. Okay, let's go on. Be specific. An example is you ask me to test you beforehand to practice the spelling in case you made mistakes. So this is what I mean by very specific. And all you need to know is to notice what your child has been doing. Okay, so first of all, you connect to the outcome. Second is specific. You ask me to test you before the night of the spelling, right? And you may be saying, but what if I'm the one who told them to do it? What you can say is, you don't lie, of course, and you don't make it up for them, because if you make it up for them, then you'll be confused. You could say that you listened to mommy's advice to practice the night before, and because of that practice, you were able to do well in spelling this time. You can still say well done after that, right? So what we want to move away is just from giving vague and simplified praise, and not to overly focus on the characteristic of you're so smart or you're so intelligent or you're so diligent or you're so whatever. Okay, hope the example helps. The next one is what not to say. Yeah, so what not to say, I've said that. I've already given some examples. Well done, good job, you're so smart. And even this one, wow, you managed to do that even without studying? Wow, you're amazing. Because then they'll start to say like, okay, I can do that without studying, right? I'm very smart, right? So I'm not going to do it. Yeah, I'm not going to study next time because I'm already so smart. You see how it can become a double-edged sword the way you praise? Yeah. So for example, let me just do another example very related to this. They've done well in their test and they come back and you say, wow, you're so smart for getting this good grade. The next time, if they don't do well, what are they going to think? Just type into the chat box. What are they going to think the next time they don't do well? Yes. Immediately they will flip to the other side and it's very black and white. Yes. And they will say, oh, when I got 95, my mommy said I'm very smart. Now that I got 80, I'm not smart anymore. Right? So that's how in our praise sometimes we convey to them that they are not, that they have a fixed mindset. So our praise has to be very specific, has to be process oriented and effort oriented. So when they don't do well, instead of thinking they're not smart, they will say, oh, which part of my process can I do better? Right? Maybe I can practice more. Maybe I can ask mommy or daddy for help. Maybe I can ask my teacher for help. They will look at the process. Or they will say, yeah, maybe I need to practice more times, for example. So there is something that they can do to make the situation better. But if they think they are not smart, then now the characteristic of smart is now tied to the outcome and it's dependent on that outcome. And in future, whatever bad result, they're going to think, I'm not smart, I'm not good enough. And when this mindset is stuck with them for a long time, it becomes very hard for them to undo it. Okay, they don't feel confident because it now boils down to them and an individual characteristic that they have. Okay, let's do a practice. All you need to do is to type into the chat box what you think you would say. Okay, so your child tidied up his own room. What would you say if you were to focus on the process and the effort and connect it to the outcome? I give you 2-sentence structure that you can use. Let's try the first one. Just how would you praise your child who tidied up his own room? Let's try this out. Okay, Karen. I love the way you tried your best to fold your bed, clean your cupboard, and clear your things. One thing I would caution about using the word I love is that sometimes the children fixate on the fact that you love it, right? Because now they want to please you, so they might do it just to please you. So what we want to do is don't say I love the way, but we could say that just everything else after that is fine. Wow, you tried your best to fold your bed, clean your cupboard, and clear your things. That's wonderful. And we push the effort back to them rather than the focus be on what we like about it. I hope that's clear, Karen. So it's just a slight shift to focus on them, yes. And we can even say, wow, you must be very proud of yourself, rather than say, I'm so proud of you, because then it becomes about approval. If we change, if it's not us and change to another person, they will say, well, since daddy doesn't like it or grandma doesn't like it, then I'm not going to do it. Right? I hope you see the connection. Okay, Suhud says, wow, you have to tidy up the bed and fold the blanket. Yes, you're very responsible. Let's try to connect all this process to the outcome. What happens when they tidy the bed and fold the blanket? What happens? What is the outcome that you actually want them, that you're happy to see? Sume has, thanks for tidying your room on your own. Great. That was nice for helping out. Without repeated nagging. Yes, good. That's being very specific. How would we tie this to the outcome? This is going one step further. Anybody want to try? How would we tie this to the outcome? Okay, right? So that's an emotion, right? Okay. So the outcome is two here. One is that they may feel better. And the other one is you have a clean room. There's actually two outcomes there. Okay, good. So if we put it all together, we can say something like this. Thank you for tidying your room up on your own, for helping me out without me having to nag at you. Let's take a look at your room now. Wow, your room looks so clean, and we can actually have more space to play once everything is back where it is. Right? So it sounds much longer, of course, than well done. And that's why a lot of parents prefer to use well done because it's a shortcut. But what you're actually teaching them is that when they put in this process, when they put in the effort, they can get this particular outcome. There is a structure to it. Okay, so you have all done very well in trying to describe the process and describe the effort, right? So the next step is really connecting that to the outcome. Okay, so for Karen, right, thank you for trying your best to fold your bed, clean your cupboard, clean your things. Now when I look at your room, I can actually see where things are. Okay, another way is asking them, how do you feel now that you look at your room this way? Okay, so we want to also connect to their emotions and how they feel about actually putting in the effort to do something with a positive result. Okay, I hope doing the example is helpful. Okay, the next part is be specific. How can we have done that already? So you have done that, right? You have help out without repeated nagging, help to tidy up the bed. Yes, so being specific helps them to understand what they actually need to do in order to get to the outcome. Okay, so you're helping them to build this particular skill, which is fantastic. Okay, let's go to 9 questions. I really have so much to say about the growth mindset, but I've just limited it to 9 scenarios and 9 questions because this is the 9 common scenarios that I see with children when they are growing. Okay, so for each one, I've given a list of questions. You do not need to copy it because I'm going to put it into a PDF as we always do and upload it into the group. Just focus on going through the questions and thinking about if you asked yourself these questions, what would your answer be? Okay, so let's do that. Number 1, when they have failed at something or lost something, right, or not done well at something, you can ask this question. What did you learn from that experience? Okay, how can you apply your learning next time? What you may normally do is when they have failed, you'll be like, oh, that's okay. Try again next time. That's one way. That's one way of encouraging them. Now we are going one step further. On top of encouraging them, when they feel better, we want to ask, what did you learn from that? Okay? And going back to the bicycle example, let's say they're trying to ride the bike and they're still not able to ride with 2 wheels. We want to ask them, what did you learn from not being able to ride the bike today? And how can you apply your learning next time? Okay. The next one is when a task is difficult. So when a task is difficult, they will have a lot of emotions like frustration, annoyed, they feel that they are stupid, they don't want to keep trying. So our role now is not to tell them, if it's so hard, just stop it now lah. Or how come you can't do it? It's not a very difficult task. All these responses can dismiss the challenge that they're experiencing. And also when we say, what's that? What was I going to say? When we say, don't do it now lah. Just do something else now. We also tell them that it's okay to give up so quickly, right? So tying in with perseverance, which we talked about the last time, we ask a different question to open up. Of course, if they've been trying for 45 minutes and they're really tired, then they do need a break. Okay, but if they've just started and say, this is so hard, I don't do. We can ask them, what other ways can we try to do this? Okay, so when you can even take out a piece of paper and draw the different pathways and say, why not try this, why not try this, why not try that? Or we ask them, what do you think? If they are stuck, then we can give suggestions. Okay, next one is when they're not good at something, we can ask, oh, what can you do to get better at it? What could you practice? How much more time could we spend on this to get better at it, right? So say they're learning to play the piano, and at first they start playing the scales, and it's very difficult because their hands are very stiff. They do not know how to go up and down quickly. So we can ask, what can you do to get better at practicing your scales? Or what can you do to get better at playing the tune, right? So we give them also ownership at answering the question themselves. Or how else can you practice? Or what would help you do this better? Okay, so you notice that questions to promote the growth mindset actually broaden their thinking. When you first start asking these questions, at first they may not know how to answer you because it's new to them. And for the younger ones, they may not know what you're trying to ask them. So that's when our role as parents become important in just giving them the answer and explaining to them, right? When, let's say, when they're not good at something, we can say, oh, maybe for now you don't know how to build the blocks. So in order to get better at it, let's do it a few more times. Let's play it again tomorrow. So we can give suggestions. Okay. When they aren't the best, right? Let's say the older children realize when they're trying to do something in class, maybe paint a picture or do origami, and they realize that they did not produce the nicest looking picture. Children are very smart at these things. They know how to tell whether they're better or not. We can ask this growth mindset question, which is, who can you learn from? Okay, and so remember the first chart that I showed you, that when they have a fixed mindset, they start getting jealous of the person who's better. This question can sort of help to prevent that and say, well, who can you learn from? Who else do you think is good in painting that you can learn from? So in this case, we encourage them to keep an open mind to now find out from this person, how did they do it? And you can imagine what this would do for them. Just this question would open their mind and learning to so much as they grow up, right? As they go through hurdles when they're growing up, and we all know that our children can't be the best at everything. And just like us, we can't be the best at everything. We can be very good at some things, but not so good at others. When we keep an open mind and ask, well, who can you learn from? Then there's unlimited sources of people that they could learn from. Okay. The last one on this page is when they aren't happy with their work. Some children are quite perfectionistic and they're not happy with their work. So one question we can say is, well, who can you ask who will give you honest feedback? Or we can ask them, what is it you're not happy with, right? And they may say, oh, I'm not happy that I wasn't able to tell a good story today in my show and tell. I'm not happy with that. Then we say, well, who do you think can tell you how to get better, right? Or what are you not happy with, and what can you try again next time, right? So you notice that the questions help to open their mind, okay, to think differently. Next one, when they don't know what to do. I don't know, mommy, it's too hard. I don't know how to start. It's just too many things. They don't know what to do. Or you ask them, what do you want to do? They say, I don't know. Quite common. So one thing is to ask them a question. What is one small step you could do to start? What is the easiest thing you can start to do so that you can get moving, right? So really one small thing. So some of you may be thinking, wow, Shan, this sounds very complex for my young child. But what I want to share with you is that the more we put this into our speech of asking them, the more they're likely to learn these questions and the framework. So we can even ask a small child, well, and you don't know what to do, you can say, what can we try to do? Or in a small child, 2.5, for example, you can give suggestions. Hey, if we are trying to build a puzzle, maybe we can try putting one piece first. Or maybe we can try to look for all the yellow pieces and put them together. Okay? So the next one is when the task is too easy, right? Sometimes you can see that they're very bored because they've done the same thing over and over again. then we can say, well, how can we make this more challenging for you? How can we make this more difficult for you, right? Because we also want to be able to challenge them to push that bit further, okay? The next one is when they have accomplished something, when they have done something really well. Instead of just saying, wow, that's fantastic, you're amazing, we can ask a question. What have you learned from your success? How did you do it? Can you tell me how you actually managed to do that? What are you going to do next? What skills did you use in order to do this? Right? So maybe they're playing with Play-Doh and they managed to make a little cupcake or managed to make a little ice cream. Then you can say, wow, how did you manage to make that? And if you ask a young child how they managed to make that, what they will actually do is show you how they did it. So they may take the ball of Play-Doh and then roll it, and then they might just squeeze something to be the cone, and they say, see, I did this, and they put on top, right? So by doing that, even when they're very young, we're actually teaching them that success is something that's within their own means and their own effort. And it's not just about luck, it's not just about intelligence. Okay, and then we push them the next step and say, what are your next goals? What do you want to make next? Now you've made an ice cream with your Play-Doh. What do you want to make next? Right? So they get very excited. Wow, I managed to do something. I hope you can see how this connects to them being more confident, having greater self-esteem. Okay. The last one is when they don't agree with the rules. So when they don't agree with the rules that you've set for them, and you say you can't do this, instead of saying these are the rules and you don't argue with me, because then they will say, okay, since I can't push the boundary, then I'm not going to learn anything. So in a way, we are conveying the fixed mindset. We will say, well, so you don't agree with it. What ideas do you have? What shall we do? What can you teach mommy and daddy today? Right? So you notice that all the questions is turning back to them, giving them back the ownership and asking them what can they do to contribute to this. And you notice that these 9 questions really can cover almost every situation that you have faced with your child. Okay? So I hope that it has been a useful lesson tonight covering the growth mindset, and that the 9 questions have been very, very useful for you in working with your children. So for some of you who have the younger ones, my suggestion is start as early as possible to ask these questions, to praise them with effort and process, because then the sense of confidence is built up. They feel that they're very competent and they can do it. And when their confidence level is high, they're more likely to want to learn and learn more difficult things. And when they learn more difficult things, then they're able to grow and develop and advance to the next stage. Okay, so I have some time for questions. If you have any questions related to the growth mindset, or even if it's not related to growth mindset, this is a great time to ask questions. Okay, so we can type it in the chat box so that I can get an opportunity to help you to answer it before we take off for the night. I think Karen's dropped off. I don't know why. Maybe she's a little busy. When your daughter finishes her jigsaw puzzle, I ask her, did you have fun fitting the puzzle? Yeah, so that is a question. That is a question on how she feels, right? So I guess one suggestion would be to ask an open-ended question, right? So did you have fun? The only response you can have is yes, no, or I don't know, right? So we can ask an open-ended question. Open-ended questions are also very good for promoting the growth mindset. So while you finish your jigsaw puzzle, and I saw that you put the pieces in by yourself, how do you feel about that? Right? I hope that answers your question. Yeah, we ask a broad, open-ended question. So we give her the opportunity to tell you how she feels. If she's not able to express it, then we give her some help by using emotion cards. Or we can say that if I were you, wow, I will find this activity quite fun. What do you think? Yeah, Tuan Ted, I hope that helps. Tuan Ted and Siu Mei, I guess, together. Any other question about being very specific questions that I can really help you with? Okay. So he's struggling with mathematics. How old is he? Siu Hun again. Simple problem. He's 8, so primary 2. So he will have difficulties. Okay. So how to encourage him is there are many ways. So I'm going to go through some ways. So when they start struggling with a subject, automatically they will not like it. They will learn to not like it, right? So we need to address this in different ways. All right, yeah, Contact, I'll get back to your question. So, for example, when he's struggling with math, we want to know, is it A, he doesn't like the subject? B, is it because he finds it difficult, right? C, is it that he's very negative about it already, right? Maybe it's all three. So, but knowing which one it is, knowing which one it is makes a difference in our approach. So, one is an attitude towards math, which is I can't do it. Maybe that's his fixed mindset coming in. Number two, the other one is also an attitude, which is I don't like math. And the reason why he doesn't like it is probably because he's not good at it, or he thinks he's not good at it. He can't seem to do well in it. So he starts to think, I don't like math. And then the third one is that he, in terms of his abilities, he may actually be having some difficulties. So you need a multi-pronged approach. First off is to find out where the challenge lies in his abilities, right? So I'm not sure what your son is doing now, whether is it addition and subtraction. My girl in P2, she's doing like 3-digit plus and minus, I think something like that. So even for herself, sometimes she struggles with certain questions of mathematics, right? The one thing we definitely cannot and should not do is say, why this kind of sum you also cannot do? It's not that difficult, right? Because the moment we do that, then we are making them have a more negative feeling about the subject. So that's one thing that we can switch. The other thing is really to find out where is the challenge. Is it in the very basic plus and minus in tens? That's what I found out with my daughter when she came back with some mistakes in the paper. I realized that she didn't know how to count on, right? Say 8 plus 6. She didn't know how to count on from the 8. So she knew how to get to the 10, 8, 9, 10, but after that she got lost. So instead of putting 14, she put 16 because she looked at the 6. She thought that she had counted down to 10 and she just put 16. So we need to understand whether the struggle is on the ability first of all, right? So if there's an ability issue, we need to get to the bottom of what is the ability issue that he's struggling with specific to the maths questions. And then the other part is the encouraging. Yes, correct. Yeah. So okay, so if it's a confidence issue, then we need to make him feel that he's able to do something first. So what I would suggest is to go back to sums that are slightly simpler in terms of practice so that he can at least feel good about those sums, right? So when he says, well, I can't do it with 3 digits, we can suggest, how about let's try 2-digit numbers? Okay, so we want to test what he's saying. Okay, let's test whether is it that is a problem sum, is it the 3-digit, or is it just his confidence? So yeah, so Siu Hun, I would suggest this: go to the 2 digits and ask him, how about let's go back to basic, even go back to 1 digit, 8 plus 6, 12 minus 9, and see can he do that. If he can do it, that means he has the fundamentals. And what is creeping in is fear. Okay, he's scared when he see the big number that he cannot do it. right? So this is why I think that it's very useful to break apart where the problem lies. And then in terms of your encouragement, when he is able to do the 1 digit and then the 2 digit, we want to use what we just learned in process praise to praise him and say like, yeah, you see, when you are able to add this single digit to this, you were able to get to this number all by yourself, which means that you can actually do this by yourself. Okay, so it does require a little bit of backtracking, but we want to think about building the foundation for the long haul. Because at P2, if you can't do the 3 digits, then it's just going to pile up. And we want to think about this as going slow, going backwards, so that he can go do better in the long run. Okay, so encouragement, finding out where the challenge is with the mathematics, and even asking him how he feels about the subject. Does he like it? Where are the real struggles? And so on. I hope that helps, Soo-Hoon. Let me know if that is something that you can actually work with. Okay, great. So Tangte has this question. Sometimes my son says he's already very good, but actually it's not true. I suspect that he says that so he doesn't need to do the task. Yes, sometimes they will do that. They elevate their own abilities in their mind so that they can fend you off and say, I don't need to do already because I'm actually very good at it. Okay, in which case, what you can do is, number one, you can look at whatever he's talking about, the task that he's doing. Two is you can give him, you can switch roles and say, oh, wow, you mean you actually already know how to do that? Well, I don't know how to do it. Can you teach me? So sometimes we need to flip the table around like that. You know, if we say, no lah, I don't believe you. Then he'll say, oh, then can you show me how your teacher teaches you? Okay, because I don't sit in your classroom. Okay, so then he cannot say that you know. They are very clever with their words, aren't they? They know how to twist them around. Yeah, so say to him, say, oh, I'm not sure if I know what it's like to be taught by your teacher. So can you teach me how your teacher teaches you? Just pretend to be the teacher and show me how to do this question, right? So that you can test understanding. If he doesn't want to do it, the only other way is to look at the task that he's doing and see whether whether what he says is the truth. Okay, because I'm saying your words and saying that I suspect he says that he doesn't need. I suspect, so I'm not sure whether you actually know that he cannot do it and is trying to just elevate himself. Yeah, but it does serve as a protective mechanism sometimes so that they don't have to admit that they can't do it, right? The other way is if you use a growth mindset question could be what else can you learn to get better at it? Yeah, if you were to teach this to your friend, what would you say? Okay, so sometimes telling us they don't believe us and they say, yeah, you know lah, you know. Maybe using a friend will help. Asking them what other ways can they get better at this, right? Maybe you can give me an example of the task that will help me give more specific answer. Piano piece. Okay, so he says that he's very good, but you don't think so. Is it because he doesn't want to practice for it, or oh, so he doesn't want to practice and he says that he's already very good? Ah, okay, okay. So, okay, one thing you can do is, it's very interesting. One thing you can do is, if you have tried all the creative ways and it doesn't work, right? Then we can try to do a role play scenario and saying that, oh, you know, this is the day that you are going to perform for the class, and now let's see how you do. So you sort of set up, you know, I think you know him better than I do, but set up something in which he will want to try to play it for you. If it still doesn't work, the other way is to say, well, I would really like to hear you play, and you make it something that is not so, like, you don't have to play for so long. Just 5 minutes. Just let daddy hear you for 5 minutes, right? And if he is making mistakes, you can say, oh, okay, this piece sounds like it's quite a difficult piece. Let's take a look and see how we can make this part better. Okay, sometimes they don't want to admit it because they may feel embarrassed, they may feel bad. So we want to create situations where they can feel safe to try it out in front of you. Okay, maybe if you're not sitting there, it might help, right? So you say, just go and play, mommy and daddy will sit in the other room. They just listen only, right? So maybe they don't feel like he doesn't want to be judged. So we try to create a safe environment so that he will at least be willing to get to the piano. Okay. One thing that actually works for my child when it comes to playing the piano is use of technology. So she likes it when I video record her playing, because then she gets to rewatch it and listen to it. So sometimes that could be appealing. Then we say, oh, I want to just record it because I want it to be the tune for my ringtone. Yeah. So my daughter likes that as well. Anything to do with technology they like. So we got to find a way in, right? So I tell her, let's record it. And if it's well played, wow, then mommy is going to use it as my ringtone, and I can listen to it whenever you call me from home. That's going to be the ringtone. Yeah, maybe you can try that because it has helped my daughter, and then we can see whether he can really play it. Yeah. And even if he doesn't want to play and be good at it, at least he will want to see the phone and get to the piano, right? So we want to see, our goal is to get him the piano to at least try to practice it. Okay. And the good thing about the phone is that if it doesn't go well, you can say, okay, let's delete and try again. Okay. And again, that promotes him trying again. Yeah, good. I'm glad you like the suggestion. Technology can be actually very helpful to our parenting. We just need to know the right ways to use it. Okay. How do we get him away from whine first and do later? Well, we need to understand, why is he whining, right? I've come to the point where I see that any challenge that we have with our kids can be solved using 3 main questions. The first is, why is this behavior happening? And what is the situation, right? First we ask, what is the situation? The situation is you want him to play the piano. Then we ask, then he doesn't want to do it, right? So we say, why is this happening? So we can get to the root of the issue. And then finally, once we know the root, once we know the situation, we ask, what strategy can we use? How are we going to do this, right? So if we use this framework, we can ask, why is he whining? Do you have idea? Why? What? Why is he whining? Okay, what other reasons are there? Let's try and think of other reasons why he could be whining. Okay. What else? I'm trying to push you all to think. I promote your growth mindset. What else could he be whining about? Right. Yep, now you're getting there. Okay, so let's see. If you come up with more, let me know. So Yeah. Why? Because he's lazy on watching. He say he dislike piano. Yes. So you see, when you know what happens at this point, we might say, stop whining, you have to do it. Or we say, why you keep whining? Huh? Why you so lazy? Again, you know, just like growth mindset, when we praise them, right? Our criticism is also about process and effort. Instead of you're you're so lazy. Because when we put characteristic labels on them for good and for bad, they become fit. They become like putting them into a box, right? So we want to look at the why first. Why don't they want to do it? Number one, they could be feeling lazy. So instead of them being lazy people, they could be feeling lazy. Even with the lazy, we can ask, why are they lazy? Could be that they are tired. Okay. And then another why are they whining is that they want to play, they want to watch TV. Another why could be that it is boring, it's repetitive, the practice is not interesting. Another why could be he doesn't like it. He actually doesn't like it. So then why is he doing it? Why is he learning the piano? So I'm asking really fundamental questions, because I find that if we only think of solutions to get him away from whining, then we do not really understand what the problem is, right? I hope this makes sense. So if they are feeling lazy because they're feeling tired, and we tell them to practice, then we are not recognizing their current state. Okay? If they are whining because they want to play, then that is a possibility that you can now have a suggestion of, well, if you want to play, how long are you going to play? Give me a time limit and let's agree on it. Okay? So we want to train them and put in the limits. You want to play? Okay. What do you want to play and for how long? And can we agree that after your playtime, we will go to the piano and you will practice your piano without whining? Can we agree on that? Right? Because they are very good at giving excuses. Whether they are true or not, sometimes we can't really tell. Because they just want to get away from it, so they'll say anything. Yeah, so we want to be firm. Not mean, but firm. Okay? And if they say this is so boring, yes, we want to be firm, because being firm, we give them structure. Giving them structure is one of the best things you can give your children, right? With structure, you save time. With structure, they learn to self-regulate. So some people who watch the way I parent, they would think that I'm very strict. And actually, it's not strict. I'm just very firm. You want to play? Yes, you can. But you also need to practice your piano, so let's negotiate and agree. Okay, so this agreement is very important. We need to get the agreement from them. Okay, if they think that it's boring, then we want to find out, why is it boring? What do they find it boring about? Is it that it's the piece they don't like? Is it that it's repetitive, right? And if they say, yeah, so boring, I don't like the piano, it's repetitive, I'm not even interested in it, you know, then we want to ask them even more fundamental question. Then why are they doing it? If it's homework, you can say they're doing it because the teacher asked them to do it. Okay, if it's piano, then they're doing it because maybe you want them to do it. I don't know, I'm guessing. Right? So you notice that we ask the why question first before we go to the how. Because otherwise your how is wrong. Your how may be the wrong solution. Okay. If they have to do it like it's homework, then we can say, how can I help you make it better? Right? How can this be more interesting for you? Okay. So we still don't let them get away with it, because if we let them get away with it, then they will start to think that anything that's boring, I don't have to do. And we know that in life, there are a lot of things that are boring that we have to do, right? So, but we cannot just tell them. If we tell them, if you grow up as an adult and you don't know how to do boring things, your life is finished. They do not understand it that way. Okay, so our role is to support, be firm but supportive, and just say, yes, I can understand that some part of this practice and some part of this homework can be boring. We acknowledge and say, yes, I can understand. But it's still something that your teacher has asked you to do. So how can we do this in as best possible way, and how can I help you? Okay? Or what would make it easier for you to do it? Right? So maybe they'll say, oh, it will help if I take a break first. It will help if I have an ice cream. I don't know what drives your children, right? So they will go for something that will motivate them. And it's okay. If it's a reasonable request, we give them a little bit of incentive, right? So that at least they can get started, to get from stage 0 to stage 1. Does it make sense to all of you? Yeah, great, great. Yeah, so always ask yourself, when you see a behavior that you're not don't like, or they're not satisfied with, you want to ask why. Why is this happening? And if you are not sure, just try listing down as many possibilities as possible. Yeah, or post into the group and ask me, Shan, this is happening. Why? Why could this be happening? Then I can give you some ideas as well. Okay, Siu-Hun and Tae and Siu-Mei, thanks for staying on for till so late. I really enjoyed talking to you. Yeah, and I really think that tonight with the growth mindset can really, really help your kids, especially those who are struggling with the work and the daily stuff. Okay, a lot of it, yeah, you're welcome, Siu-Hun. A lot of it starts from us, again, in our role modeling, and just recognizing that they are really learning, and just like us, when we were learning, we wanted someone to support us, and we didn't know, and we needed some guidance, and that's our role in this position. Yeah. Okay, I will be going to upload the video so that if you want to rewatch it, you can, and I'll also upload the PDF for you to download. Yeah. Okay, good night, everybody. Have a good March holidays. Get some rest, and I'll talk to you next week. Let me know what topic you want to cover next week, and ask me some questions so I can get some inspiration. Okay? Good night. Bye.